Hello guys, you're welcome to today's video, and in today's tutorial we will be talking about how to build test-driven smart contracts. Now we will be working with the ganache and the truffle, and you can to install ganache you just have to come to this website trufflesuit.com/ganache. Now I'm on Linux, but this website will detect your OS, and you can go ahead and download. So to install truffle you need npm install. So you can install it globally using this command. Now with this command you are set to, like, yes, you are good to go with truffle. And then once that's done you can initialize a project with the truffle in it. I've initialized my project already and I'm good to go. So without further ado, let's get started. So you will want to install the Solidity extension for your Visual Studio Code. This will help the Visual Studio Code IDE to understand what you're working with. So let's get started, and I'll be creating my contracts file. So basically, one thing that Trouble helps you with is that it helps you to initialize a compiler version. Now if you have this compiler version installed, I don't mean this exactly, I mean whatever version Truffle presents to you, if you have that installed, you're good to go. But if you don't have that installed, by the time you want to compile your contract and if you are connected to the internet, it will be installed for you. But I have this compiler version installed for me already, so I will just head to this place. I'll come here and I'll write that here. So the name of my contract will be test results, and I'll be creating a function, or two functions basically. A function that accepts a string and returns the string. It will be external because we'll be calling this function outside our contract. It will be pure because it's not reading any state from our contract. And it will return our string called data. Now why is it called data? Imagine in number one of the situations where you might want to use a call data is if you are working with an external function. That is number one. And then number two, if which external function you will not be manipulating your argument, then you can work with the call data. But if, for example, I'll be setting string to maybe I'll be setting this string variable to another value, then I can work with memory. Other than that, call data, then I will return my string. Now this is another function. This particular function will be we'll be using this function to change the state of our contracts. We call it change state. It will be external. It's not going to be view because it's not going to return any value. What it's going to be doing is that to be changing the state of our contract. So what states are we going to be using? Units to 56 of value. Then so basically this is this is what we're going to be doing. Now let's get started with writing our test. So your test scripts for you to get started, you'll be working with the Mochai framework. And to get started with the Mochai framework, you will want to install the npm. So I have it installed already. So you will want to install, you definitely want to install this to get started. We're going to be talking about. So since I have this installed already, let's get started with writing our unit test. So we need to import our chart library. But we want to use the chart as promised. That should. And then because we want to test our smart contracts, it means we need a way to be able to make reference to our contracts, and Truffle provides us with an helper function to do that. So to do that, this can be any variable name. So to do that, it will be artifacts. You don't have to import anything to use this. You have it by default. Then / the name of your contract. Now, not the name of your contract file. My contract file is contract.so, and the name of my contract is test result. So it is the name of the contract you need that you put here. Test result. Now, to get started with writing our test, we just need to write this contract, then the name of the unit test. It can be anything. My smart contract unit test. Now, if you were to be working with your account, okay, yes, I have my ganache. Sorry, I forgot to say this. You need to have your ganache up and running, and then your accounts. You need to set the workspace. So that is getting ready. So we need a deployed instance because we've not migrated our smart contracts, but we need to test our functions, right? So definitely we need a deployed instance of our smart contracts. So how do we get a deployed instance? We can say let's test results. So before each, so this before each, we ensure that it creates an instance of our smart contract before running any test case. Now, with this .new, it's going to instantiate our test result variable with an instance of the deploy smart contract. Now, if your contract accepts a constructor, maybe you need to pass some values in your constructor, you pass those values here inside these brackets. So let's get started with testing. So let's try to test for our contract deployment. So we say that so once you have a deployed instance, by default you can call the address method of your deployed contract. So that's the test result, that's address. But one thing is that for every time you run a function, like for every time you run your smart contract function, you deploy your smart contract, it always returns a promise. So you definitely want to make this so we don't get an error in the long run. So that man. So this is my accounts. Test results. Address. The shoot the note. So we are trying to test that we have a contract address. Now, why do we have a second argument here? It's not compulsory. It can always be like this, but for debugging purpose, this will help us. This second argument will help us to debug our test effectively. In that, if for any reason this test fails, we will know. It will be easy for us to detect where the failure comes from. So let's get started with running. So this is how you run your test. So start running to be sure that record it well. Okay, test result test the JS. Sorry. So we should compile our contracts and run it. Now there is a problem in my smart contracts, and that's this place. Sorry. It says artifacts that require. Oh, come on, my mistake. That require. Oh, my mistake. So let's run our test case again. Good, so our test passed. In other words, we have a contract address. Now to show you let's just see the importance of the second arguments. I will try to make this fail. So I will set it to be that it should be equal to, so it's going to fail because our contract address is not empty. So basically you'll be working with this three statement: the describe statement, the before each, and the it. So when you want to create a new, create like a new test case, you can use the describe, and then this describe can have subtests, subtests under it. So, but this before each, because this before each is going to run like for every describe test is going to run. It's going to run this before each over and over again, basically. So can you see that it failed now because it should be empty, but in the actual sense it's not empty. We have a contract address. That's number one, and number two, you can see that this is the second argument here. It has a contract address. So with this I can know which of my tests actually failed. With these were the tests that failed. It has a contract address. So now let's go ahead and test our functions. Now let's test our return string. So we are trying to test that the return string from this function is, because according to our smart contract we expect that it returns the arguments back to us. So remember I said that every time we run our smart contract function it returns a promise. So we want to make this a sync and not wait, so we can run our test case again. Good, so our test passed, which means that it returned the string, it returned the arguments to us. So let's test for the state change. So we want to test that it's changed states. Okay, so let me make this public so that we can, so I'll be able to call this variable. So let's say that okay, before that let me just use the before each. So I want to test that the state has changed in the smart contract. So we run our test again. So can you see that it said because it couldn't make a comparison between the value returned from the smart contract and our actual number. So that's because the value, whenever the smart contract returns a number, it returns them in the big number data type. So what we can do is we can convert to string and test it against this as well. Good, so our test passed, and that was because, so this means that this function of ours changed the states of these data in our smart contract. So I need to emphasize this because we have our accounts here. We have our accounts here, so you can send this transaction using any of your accounts. And how can you? We have access to, that should be 10 accounts, right? Yes, we have access to 10 accounts here, so we can send a transaction using, so I want to call the first and the second. I just want to call the first account in the smart contract. Sorry, the first account in my ganache, and then this is how you can send transaction, specifying the address you want to use. So this way your contract will still pass. So how do we test for revert, like for revert cases, like our revert message? So let's try to use the require statement. Let's require that the number should be greater than 5. So this should fail. And how do we know that it's going to fail? That's because we will be passing a number that is lesser than 5. So let's pass 4. So we know that that should be, so if you know, if you want to test for a transaction that will revert, this is how you test it. Should be rejected. So don't forget to make this and async. So let's test this, and then we know we are good to go. So you can see that our test passed for this function to fail. So basically it failed, and then this brings us to the end of our tutorial today. So if you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to subscribe. And this is basically how you test your smart contracts. So thank you for watching.